In the wild world of NFL free agency, some moves are pretty straightforward. You're either rebuilding or you're reloading for a title shot. But man, every now and then, a team makes a signing that is just so confusing, so full of contradictions, that you just have to stop everything and break it down piece by piece. Well, today, we're looking at exactly one of those moves. The Houston Texans, who, let's be honest, had maybe the best defense in the entire league last year, just shelled out nearly $25 million for a safety who, according to the analytics, was one of the worst starters in the NFL. How in the world does that make sense? Is this some 4D chess from the Texans front office, or is it a huge, unforced error? We are going to get to the bottom of it. Welcome to NFL Nexus.
And there it is, the move that really sent some tremors through the AFC. The Houston Texans have gone out and gotten former Eagles safety Reed Blankenship. Now, let's be super clear here. This is not some depth piece. This is not a guy you bring in to compete in camp. This is a serious financial investment in a critical defensive position. For a team that already had a defense that was absolutely suffocating offenses last season, this move is a statement. It's loud, it's clear, and it's aggressive. It's basically the Texans telling every other contender out there, our championship window, it's wide open right now, and we are pushing all of our chips to the middle of the table.
So, to really get this signing, we've got to look at it from every single angle. We're going to start with the obvious stuff, right? What does bringing a champ into that locker room actually do for the team? Then we'll get into the player himself, his wild journey from being an undrafted nobody to a guy teams are throwing money at. And of course, we're going to follow the money. We'll break down the contract to see if the value is really there. But that's where the story gets really interesting. We're going to face those alarming analytics head on, the numbers that paint a totally different picture. Then we'll try to figure out how he fits into Houston's crazy swarm defense. And finally, after all that, we'll give you our final grade and the definitive verdict on this whole thing.
Okay, first things first, let's just zoom out and look at the big picture. A Super Bowl champ is headed to Houston, and their job is to make an already killer defense even better. I mean, the Texans front office, they've built a reputation for being smart and strategic, not just making moves for headlines. So when they pounced this fast and this hard on Blankenship, it tells you this wasn't an impulse buy. Nope. This was a targeted, surgical strike to fix what they saw as the one big weakness on their otherwise dominant defense. They saw a problem, and on day one of free agency, boom, they went and got their guy.
So what was that problem they were so hell-bent on fixing? In a word, stability. Or really, a total lack of it. Just think about the safety spot for a second. It's like the quarterback of the secondary, right? All the communication, the alignments, the adjustments, it all flows through your safeties. Now try building any kind of chemistry when the guy next to your young star, Kalen Bullock, is different every other week. I mean, last year they had MJ Stewart, CJ Gardner-Johnson, Jalen Reed, and Kayvon Wallace all take a crack at it. That's a revolving door. And that kind of chaos leads to hesitation, blown assignments. It's just death by 1,000 paper cuts. The Texans didn't just need another player. They needed an anchor, a steady hand to lock that spot down for the next few years.
So, with all that in mind, why was Blankenship the guy they went after so hard? Well, on paper, he just checks every single box. He's an immediate plug-and-play fix for that instability problem we just talked about. He brings leadership from a winning culture in Philly. And oh yeah, he's got a Super Bowl ring from 2024. That's not just a piece of jewelry. That's big game experience that this young Texans team really needs. Physically, he's got the size, he's got the speed, and at 27 years old, he's right smack in the middle of his prime. I mean, if you were to draw up the perfect free agent to put a great roster over the top, this is pretty much what it looks like.
Okay, now let's dig into the man himself, because his path to this big contract is one of those classic NFL stories you just gotta love. I mean, this league is filled with five-star recruits and can't-miss first-round picks. Reed Blankenship is not one of those guys. He is proof that pure grit and determination can get you a long way. He wasn't handed anything. He clawed his way into the league and basically forced coaches to put him on the field. It's the classic tale from undrafted to absolutely undeniable.
And this timeline just lays it all out, his crazy fast rise. I mean, think about this for a second. In 2022, he's just an undrafted kid from Middle Tennessee, probably a long shot to even make the team. A year later, he's a full-time starter with over 100 tackles. The very next season, 2024, he's a key player on the league's #1 pass defense, grabbing 4 picks on his way to winning a Super Bowl. That kind of jump almost never happens for an undrafted guy. Even in 2025, the year we're going to talk about in a minute, he was still a 16-game starter. This isn't some one-hit wonder. It's a steady, consistent climb that ends with this massive payday in Houston.
All right, time to do what we do best here. Follow the money. Because in the NFL, what a team really thinks of a player isn't in what they say at the press conference. It's what they write on the check. We're going to break down the dollars and cents here to answer the big question. Did the Texans get a steal, or did they overpay for a guy with some pretty serious red flags? Is this a masterstroke or a potential mistake?
So the big number that everyone sees is the total value, $24.75 million over 3 years. Now let's be clear, this isn't putting him in that elite, top-tier safety money with guys like Derwin James. It's not a market-resetting deal. But it is a very, very solid investment. This number tells you the Texans see him as a starter and a core piece for the next few years. This isn't a one-year, prove-it kind of deal. This is a 3-year commitment, and with that money comes a whole lot of expectation.
But as all you savvy football fans know, the headline number is often just for show. The only number that really matters is the guaranteed money. And for Blankenship, that's a cool $16.5 million guaranteed. That right there is the team's real commitment. With more than 2/3 of the contract guaranteed, he's basically uncuttable for at least the first 2 years. It's a huge vote of confidence from the team, and it gives Blankenship a ton of security. It's the team saying, we believe in you, and we're invested in making this work.
And because this is NFL Nexus, you know we've got to get into the nitty-gritty. You might have seen a couple different numbers floating around for this deal. SI.com first reported it at $24.5 million, but then other outlets like Pro Football Rumors and Clutch Points came in at $24.75 million, and they were citing his agents. It's a small difference, sure, but the details matter. We're going to go with the higher number just because the sourcing seems a little stronger coming straight from the guys who negotiated the deal. It's that kind of detail we always want to bring you here.
Okay, now this is where you can really see the genius of this contract. When you break it down, his average salary, or AAV, comes out to about $8.25 million a year. You know where that ranks him among NFL safeties? Roughly 25th. Let that sink in for a second. The Texans are paying him like a middle-of-the-pack, average starter. But they're getting a 27-year-old with a Super Bowl ring who has proven he can produce at a high level. That is the definition of value. They're getting that elite experience and championship pedigree at a totally reasonable price. It's just a really, really smart piece of business by the Houston front office.
Okay, so we've laid out the entire case for this signing. But believe me, this story is far from over. Before we completely flip the script and get into the really serious concerns, if you're enjoying this level of detail, the best way you can support the channel is to go ahead and subscribe to NFL Nexus. Hit that like button, and hey, drop a comment below. Let me know what your initial grade for this move is before we get into the bad stuff.
And if you're looking for another way to help us out, check out our NFL-themed coloring books. Seriously, they're perfect for fans of all ages. Kids, grandkids, even adults who just need to de-stress after a crazy Sunday of football. You can scan the QR code right there on your screen or just use the link in the description. Every little bit of support helps us keep making these deep dives for you guys, and we really, really appreciate it.
All right, thank you for that. Now, we have to look at the other side of this coin. Because for all the great things we just talked about, there is a massive, blinking red flag in Blankenship's profile. It's time to dig into the concerns, because the analytics from last season tell a story that is completely different from the player we've been describing.
And there it is, the number that makes this entire signing so confusing and so controversial. According to Pro Football Focus, Reed Blankenship ranked 89th out of 91 qualifying safeties last season. Let me say that again. 89th out of 91. That's not just bad, that is scraping the bottom of the barrel. And this is the central puzzle of this whole signing. How can a player with his track record, who just got a nearly $25 million deal, grade out as one of the worst starters in the entire league? This is the mystery we have to solve.
So the scouting reports start to give us some clues. Film analysis from The Athletic pointed out a couple of key issues that popped up in 2025. Inconsistent eyes and a lack of agility and tighter coverage. So what does that actually mean? Well, inconsistent eyes means he's getting fooled by quarterbacks, biting on play action, losing track of his receiver. The lack of agility part is more physical. It means when he has to cover quicker guys one-on-one, like a slot receiver, he just doesn't have that quick-twitch athleticism to stick with them. These are the kinds of notes that start to explain those awful grades.
Now this right here might be the most important slide of the whole breakdown. When you crack open that terrible 46.5 overall grade, what you find inside is fascinating. Look at his run defense, a 73.9 grade, 32nd best in the league. That's a good run-stopping safety. Look at his pass rush, 67.8, ranked 31st. Also very good when they send him on a blitz. The whole grade, his entire reputation from last year, collapses because of one thing: coverage. His coverage grade was so bad it tanked everything else. So what we're learning is the Texans didn't sign a bad player. They signed a specialist, a really good run defender and blitzer, who for one season was a major liability in pass coverage.
And that brings us to the multi-million-dollar question that this entire signing hinges on. Was his awful 2025 season a sign that he's losing a step, or was he just a victim of a bad situation? The sources bring up a really interesting theory: the chaos on the Eagles' defense. Remember their rookie safety Andrew Mukubo went down for the year? Well, Philly ended up with that same revolving door at the other safety spot that Houston had. And playing safety is all about trust and communication. When the guy next to you is changing every week, you start to hesitate, you try to do too much, you blow assignments. The Texans are betting millions of dollars that Blankenship's struggles were because of that chaos, not because he suddenly forgot how to play football.
Okay, so we've got the good, and we've got the one very big bad. Now let's put it all together and ask the most important question. How does this specific player, with his very specific strengths and weaknesses, fit into what the Houston Texans do on defense? How is a brilliant defensive mind like DeMeco Ryans going to use his new chess piece?
This is what I'm calling the Blankenship effect, because signing him creates this awesome ripple effect across the entire secondary. So first, step one, he's that steady hand who stops the revolving door. Problem solved. Step two, he creates this awesome duo with the young star Kalen Bullock, letting both guys play to their strengths. But step three might be the most important part. It frees up Jalen Pitra. Pitra has been playing out of position at safety, but his best spot, where he can really thrive, is at nickel corner. So this one signing doesn't just improve one position, it makes 3 positions better. That's what you call a force multiplier.
And we have to keep reminding ourselves of the situation he's walking into. The Texans' defense last year wasn't just good, it was elite. Number 1 in yards allowed, number 2 in points allowed. This is not a fixer-upper project. Blankenship isn't being asked to come in and save a bad defense. He's being added as like the final infinity stone to what was already the most dominant defense in the league. His job is to just patch that one little hole and take this unit from an A+ to an A++. And that brings us to the end, the final verdict. We've looked at the good, the bad, and the ugly. We've weighed his resume against the analytics, the great contract against the on-field problems. It's time to put it all together and give this thing a final grade. When you boil it all down, this is a high-floor move, but one with some serious championship upside.
When you break it down like this, the answer becomes pretty clear. Did they need him? A+. They had a huge hole and they filled it. His pedigree as a player? A. You can't just go out and buy Super Bowl experience. The contract value? A-. That's a great price for a starter in his prime. Now, we have to be honest about last year's performance. Based on the numbers, that's a C-. But the strategic fit, how he makes everyone else better, that's another A+. So when you weigh it all, the positives just overwhelm that one context-heavy negative. Taking all of that into account, our source material over at SI.com gives this signing a final grade of a B+, and honestly that feels about right. Their whole argument for why it isn't an A is about opportunity cost. The Texans still have some big question marks on their offensive line, and that $25 million they gave to Blankenship could have gone to protecting their franchise quarterback. It's a fair point, you always have to look at the whole roster.
So I'll leave you with this one big, tantalizing question. The Texans' defense was already knocking on the door of being the best. The reigning champion Seahawks probably had something to say about that. But now, with the addition of a proven, hard-hitting, Super Bowl-winning safety in Reed Blankenship, have the Houston Texans officially built the single best defense in the entire NFL? Let me know what you think down in the comments. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive here on NFL Nexus.